They said the apartment was cursed. They said no tenant lasted more than a month. But when Chike inherited it from his late uncle, he laughed and called it superstition. He had no idea that his new landlord was more than just unfair. He was hungry. When the lawyer handed Chike the yellowing envelope, the young man almost didn't believe it. After years of hustling in Lagos, doing odd jobs, living in overcrowded hostels, and chasing dreams that kept slipping through his fingers, fate had finally smiled. His late uncle, whom he barely remembered, had left him an apartment building in Surulere. "Congratulations," the lawyer said, adjusting his glasses. "It's small, but it's all yours now. Just take care of it." Your uncle was a strange man. Chike didn't care about strange. He cared about ownership. Finally, something to his name. He took a Danfo bus that afternoon, weaving through the heat and horns until he reached Ajayi Street, where the building stood like a tired old man. The paint had peeled off like shedding skin. Windows hung loose. The gate leaned like it wanted to escape. The signboard above the door read, "Olawo Apartments," though half the letters were gone. Inside, the smell of dampness and old secrets filled the air. Tenants moved quietly through the narrow corridor, eyes low, steps light. Some whispered greetings, others just stared. Then from the shadows a voice. "You must be the new owner." Chike turned. A tall man in a brown agbada stood at the end of the corridor. His eyes were cold, his smile too tight. "I'm landlord Femi," the man said. "I manage the place. Or rather I did. Until your uncle passed." His words lingered strangely on that last word. "Ah, thank you," Chike replied politely. "I'll be taking over management now. Maybe fix a few things." Landlord Femi's smile didn't reach his eyes. He simply said, "Be careful with what you fix. This building remembers." Days turned into weeks. Chike began collecting rent, repairing pipes, patching walls. He worked tirelessly, painting over decay. But no matter how much he fixed, the building seemed to reject the change. Leaks returned overnight. Walls wept water. Doors slammed on their own. One night, he heard whispers through the hallway. Tenants murmuring about strange knocks that came at 2 a.m., about shadows that passed under their doors, about cries from the empty top floor, the one his uncle had locked years ago. When he asked the caretaker, an elderly woman named Mama Nkechi, she crossed herself. "Your uncle warned us never to go upstairs," she said, shaking her head. That was where the real landlord lived. Chike frowned. "I am the landlord now." Mama Nkechi looked at him, her eyes wide with something between fear and pity. "You don't understand, my son. There's another one. The one that never dies." He laughed it off, but her words crawled under his skin. That night, as rain battered the roof, Chike sat in the dim light of his single bulb, counting rent money on the table. Then a knock, low, heavy, 3 times. He opened the door. No one, only the sound of dripping water. Then a faint voice from the corridor. "Room 47, rent is due." He turned sharply. Room 47. There were only 46 rooms in the entire building. He checked the old records his uncle had left. On the last page, in faded ink, was a single line. "Room 47, do not disturb." The next day, Chike went searching. He counted every door. 46. But on the top floor, the one his uncle had sealed, the corridor bent oddly, as though space itself had been twisted. Behind an old wardrobe and a rusted pipe, he found it. A narrow wooden door with the number 47 carved crudely into it. He stood frozen for a moment. Then, curiosity won. He turned the handle. The door creaked open, and a stench of rot and dampness hit him like a slap. Inside was a small room, barely lit. The floor was covered with old mats, the walls with strange markings, cowries pressed into mud, feathers tied with red string, and at the center, a clay pot filled with something black and sticky. As he leaned closer, he saw faces painted on the wall, dozens of them, each one twisted in silent screams. Then he noticed one detail that made his blood run cold. Every face had a name written under it. And the last one was his uncle's. He stumbled back, heart pounding. But as he turned to leave, the door slammed shut. Darkness swallowed him. A voice whispered behind him, deep, hoarse, ancient. You've come to take what is mine. He spun around. There, half glimpsed in the gloom, stood landlord Femi. But his eyes were no longer human. They glowed red like hot coals, and his agbada moved like smoke. You think you inherited this building? The voice hissed. No. You inherited a debt. Chai could barely speak. Who are you? The man smiled, revealing teeth too sharp for any man. I am the one who gave your uncle wealth when he was nothing. He built this place on my promise. A life for each room. 46 souls paid. One remains. The shadows thickened around him, writhing like snakes. Your uncle owed me one more soul. And now that debt has found you. Chaik ran. He bolted down the corridor, the walls pulsing with whispers. The lights flickered. The air felt thick, heavy, as though the building itself was alive. Doors banged open. Tenants screamed as dark mist slithered through the halls. Mom Kechi dragged him into her room and slammed the door. Inside, candles flickered before an old wooden cross. I told you, she cried. Your uncle bound this house to a spirit. That Femi you see, he's no man. He's an Ajogan, a collector of souls. Chaik trembled. How do I stop him? She reached under her bed and pulled out a small calabash wrapped in red cloth. This is what your uncle feared most. Holy ash mixed with the dust of unburied truth. Throw it where he hides. Before she could say more, the walls began to bleed. The Ajogan's voice thundered through the ceiling. You cannot hide, boy. The rent is due. The lights shattered. Chaik grabbed the calabash and burst into the hallway, dodging the swirling darkness that clawed at him. He ran back to room 47. The door was wide open now, and inside the shadow waited, tall, smiling with eyes like burning oil. You can't own what you don't understand, it hissed. Your uncle promised me one heir. It's time. Chaik stepped forward, his hands shaking. He lifted the calabash. For every debt there's truth, he shouted. And truth doesn't pay in blood. He smashed the calabash on the ground. A blinding light burst from it, filling the room with white smoke. The Ajogan screamed, a sound like thunder breaking in a cave. The walls cracked. The clay pot shattered. Faces on the walls began to fade, one by one, as though being released. Then silence. When the smoke cleared, room 47 was empty. The walls were bare. The stench was gone. Chaik collapsed to his knees, trembling. Morning came. The sun pierced through the clouds, bathing the building in light it hadn't seen in years. The tenants emerged cautiously, whispering prayers. Mom and Kechi hugged Chaik and wept. That day he sealed room 47 again, but not with nails or locks. He wrote on the door in chalk. Debt paid. Let peace remain. He repainted the walls, repaired the roofs, and turned the apartment into a home again. For the first time, laughter echoed in Olawo apartments. But one thing remained strange. Every month when Chaik counted rent, there was always one extra envelope. No name, no handwriting, just the exact amount he needed to fix one more broken thing. He never asked where it came from. He simply whispered, "Thank you, uncle," and prayed. Because in his heart he knew, the debt might be gone, but the building still remembered. And sometimes, on rainy nights, when thunder rolled over Ajayi Street, a deep voice would echo faintly from the corridor. Keep the lights on, Chaik. The rent must always be paid. When wealth is built on shadows, the darkness always comes to collect. No inheritance is free. Some gifts are debts in disguise.